All right, I think we're live. Let's see here. We had sorry we're a little bit late. We had a few technical difficulties, so I don't have the beautiful scenery that I had planned to have for you. Just outside the door from where I'm sitting is a marvelous sunset about to appear behind the mountains. It's gorgeous. You just have to imagine. Or maybe, Rhett, you could go take a picture of it, and then we just show them the picture. It wouldn't have near the drama that I was hoping for. It was going to be really, really cool. I mean, we were going to have a great time sitting outside, but we couldn't get the internet to work. So anyway, we had to come back in here with our makeshift, as you can see, very sloppy background behind us. But I teased you with, we're going to have a wonderful view. And this is your view. So you're stuck with me. That's the best we can do. At any rate, we are on the road once again. Not on the front porch. My front porch is currently ice and frozen, and I feel really bad about the fact that I am in beautiful Pahrump, Nevada. I know Pahrump's not beautiful, but it is beautiful this week. Weather has been off the charts perfect. So for all of you that have been with us for the Constitutional Defense course, maybe you've come out when it was cold and frozen, and you thought February, Rick and his family are going to freeze on the range. I am not going with him in February. That would be nuts. You missed out because it has been perfect. Every day, sunny, 65 degrees, just incredible. And so for everybody that didn't come in February because you were worried about weather, you placed the wrong bet. And for those 300 people that came with us this week, they placed the right bet and had a fantastic time. And we're still in the middle of it, actually. So anyway, that's why I'm not on the front porch tonight, but I still appreciate you joining me for tonight's discussion. Even though I'm stuck here inside this little construction office, this is where I've been doing all of my media interviews this week, with this cropped, of course, where they only see the Patriot Academy banner. But we ran in here as quick as we could when we couldn't get our sunset picture to look good. And, man, I wish I could just give you, let's see, it wouldn't reach to even give them a tease, would it? Yeah, I can't even just sneak it outside just because they might not believe me that there is this beautiful sunset occurring.
They think that we're just back home.
Yeah, they think we're just at home in some closet faking this whole thing. Okay, let's see. Is there a way for me to see the questions and stuff on here?
I'm pulling up.
Okay, you're going to give it to me on the phone. You don't think there's a way to do it on here? Okay. Well, it looks like we got quite a few people already dialing in, and obviously time is of the essence at this moment and juncture in our history. Some of the things that we got to talk about tonight, I mean, I don't know if you saw my little picture that somebody else sent me, Tim Fox over at Victory Channel. Thank you, Tim, for sending me that. But, yes, Trump is now the back-to-back impeachment champion, undisputed, heavyweight impeachment champion of the world. Back to back, baby. I mean, he has to do everything bigger and better than everybody else. So he had to go for impeachment twice and obviously defeat them handily both times. Let's start there, then we'll jump into some other things. Because in all seriousness, this was kind of a low this week. There were times during this impeachment trial, if you can call it that. It's a show trial. If you've read any of my articles or watched any of my interviews on Newsmax or Just the News or OAN, I've said that for several weeks, that this was a show trial. This was very similar to Stalin's show trials in the 1930s, completely void of due process. For them to impeach the president in 7 hours over on the House side and then refuse to deliver the impeachment for 13 days after that, I mean, it just tells you it's a bunch of monkey business. It's a kangaroo court. And it became more kangarooish as the weeks went on. The fact that the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court refused to sit because this was not the president, but a former president, which meant he was not even eligible for impeachment. And yet they still impeached and still went forward in the Senate and had to have Patrick Leahy preside. I mean, it was just an embarrassment. Anyone that really cared about truth, that cared about justice, we're Superman when we need him. Truth, justice, and the American way, right? That used to mean something. Even in our cartoons, it meant something. And yet truth and justice were nowhere to be seen at the Capitol this week. It was literally, I truly felt like it was a low point because of the fact that, these impeachment managers, I forget the guy's name, the Representative Rascal is what I call him. I think it's Raskin. But anyway, Representative Rascal, he was very much, all I could think about every time he would get up and talk, because he was so deceitful, so full of lies, so full of carefully crafted deception. All I could think about was that movie with Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino. I'm blanking on the name of it, but Al Pacino plays the devil and recruits Keanu Reeves as an attorney, and essentially as a master at spinning the lies. Anyway, that's all I could think about every time Representative Rascal was up there. And of course, Representative Spywell. I know it's Swalwell, but he's Spywell. He's the one sleeping with a Chinese spy, and still allowed to be an impeachment manager, still allowed to sit on the Intelligence Committee. I mean, if that's not hypocrisy for you, I don't know what is. Anyway, I just, those guys were willing to say anything, and it was so fake. I mean, this was political theater at its apex. That's what I was saying on all the media this week as well. Thank you, Bob. It was unbelievable how fake it was. It was literally an alternative universe. It could have been created by Tolkien or George Lucas. It was that fake and that thorough. I mean, those guys were geniuses. They created an alternative universe that we could believe in, right? I mean, when you watch Lord of the Rings, it's like you've entered that world, and it seems real because everything is so well done. Same thing with Star Wars and Indiana Jones and other George Lucas creations. You feel like you've stepped into a real world. These impeachment managers did the same thing. I mean, they were masterful. You got to hand it to them. I mean, you got to respect the opposition's ability to paint this picture where they literally took things that Donald Trump had actually said about circumstance A, and they took what he said and they lied and said that he said it about circumstance B, so that they create this false narrative, and they weaved it together so masterfully on the first day and the second day. In the opening statements, whenever they were trying to decide whether or not to move forward constitutionally, which was obviously the right vote would have been no, this is not constitutional, and 44 senators remained strong on that. But then on day one and day two of the actual arguments, I had a hard time watching it, to be honest with you, because they would pound and talk about, this is about truth, this is about the rule of law, when it was anything but truth. It was anything but the rule of law, and it was so blatant and so in your face. And the edited videos where they cut and paste and take things that Donald Trump is saying and apply it to something that's happening that he was not even talking about. Their willingness to literally taint the evidence, and as the attorney for one of the attorneys for Trump pointed out in his interview after the trial was over, for them to literally change evidence, to manipulate evidence, to change these tweets, to be so foolish. I mean, to be so foolish to think that Calvary means Calvary. I mean, and to put that out there just shows their depravity and ignorance and how far they are in their bubble away from most of the nation that actually would know what Calvary is. It was just embarrassing. But I was really worried that they were weaving this together so well that much of America would believe it, and that they would even potentially, dog and pony show, Beverly, you said it exactly right, that they would potentially even convince enough Trump haters and never Trumpers on the Republican side to either get to 67, which I didn't think they would get to, or to do this resolution using the 14th Amendment and claim that 51, or in this case, I think they ended up with, what they ended up with, Reagan, 56 votes, 57 votes, whatever it was, would actually be enough to get conviction under the 14th Amendment and prevent him from running for office. And they may still try to do that. But anyway, back to my point, they just weaved this together masterfully, and worthy of an Academy Award for the writing, for the acting, but evil, just evil. It was so full of lies and deceptions that it was evil. Now, the good news is that because they were lying and because they were throwing this thing together, literally, on a whim and no real research, no real investigation, because they were throwing this junk together, They got busted a couple of times. I mean, thank you, Mike Lee, for that first day pointing out that they were lying about what happened on the phone call that he was a part of. Thank you very much for the lady, I forget her name, that was the one that did the tweet about we're bringing the cavalry, not the Calvary. And they got busted on those things, and it got pointed out, and that's just the tip of the iceberg to the stuff that they were lying about. So anyway, all said and done, their lies and deceptions did not work in terms of convicting the president and disqualifying him from future office, but it did, in fact, I think, further divide us. If you were in the anti-Trump crowd, and if you're a Trump hater and part of the National Review crowd, and other supposed conservatives that hate Trump, including some of these Federalist Society lackeys that signed on to this 150 expert letter saying that you could impeach a former officer, when anybody that reads the Constitution can clearly see that you can't do that. Anyway, if you're even if you're part of that conservative crowd, self-righteous conservative crowd, the Ben Sass wing of the party, or you're in the middle and you just didn't like Donald Trump because of his abrasiveness, or you were on the left. If you were in any of those categories and you watched any of this, you probably hate Trump more, you hate Republicans more, you think all patriots and all Christians are terrorists now. So it definitely made that part of our national divide worse. And if you were on a rational side that cares about truth, that cares about justice, that cares about the Constitution, then you are all the more upset with the other side. So it did exactly what we said it was going to do. Divided us even more, put us at each other's throats even more. And so, Joe Biden has, of course, failed in his rhetoric of saying he was going to unify us, and he's divided us even further by allowing this to happen and supporting this. And, of course, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck. I mean, this was Chuck Schumer to a T. I mean, this stuff, the lies that were told on the floor of the Senate all week, that's what Chuck Schumer's always been about. That's why I've never been able to stomach his speech on the floor of the Senate. I just have to close my eyes and try to keep from retching every time the guy opens his mouth, because it is so obviously full of crap. I mean, he is a liar, and he is deceitful, and he takes facts and twists them to whatever he wants to lie about, and I just can't stand it. I mean, he has debased the civil discourse of our nation for 25 years, and he's always been that way. And now that he's the Senate Majority Leader, we're going to have to put up with that for the next 2 years, and hopefully not any longer than that, but for the next 2 years. Okay, enough about impeachment. Reagan, are you watching the chat so that you can help me find questions? Because it's going way too fast for me to be able to pick them out. Okay, so enough about the impeachment. I'm trying to find my my post about what we were going to cover tonight so that I can maybe go off of that. Let's see. Yeah, so I remember my list. I can't remember what my list was that I was going to cover tonight. Do you have it handy? You could holler at me on it.
Was it an email blast?
It was, yes. Okay, so oh yeah, so I mentioned that he's the impeachment champ. If you didn't see that wonderful meme, it's worth finding. Let's see. Sorry, folks, our being off the front porch has thrown me off a bit tonight. So give me just 1 second to find my list, and we'll hit our other topics. I do have to rub in a little bit more just what a great time we've had this week with incredible weather and 300 folks coming out here to train. If you have not been with us for a constitutional defense course, one of the best things that happened this week that was a little different from our previous trips, if you tuned in last Sunday, I just did a quick 20-minute message because we were actually starting the Constitution class that night and had a room full of folks. And Daniel Horowitz was with us this week, which was just fantastic. So Horowitz and I kind of tag teamed on the Constitution class, and he talked a lot about the sanctuary city movement, sanctuary county movement, the states that are already pushing through legislation on this front. So a lot of good stuff happening on that front. And we had a chance to visit about that this week while out at Front Site doing our constitutional defense course. So I do want to encourage you, March 21st is our next trip, and it's a great chance to come out here and sharpen countenance with other patriots from across the nation, get a chance to interact. It's a free place. It's a sanctuary. location. I mean, we've got, like I said, 300 of us, and a handful of people that wear masks if they want to. It's fine, but most people don't, and we get a chance to be together and interact with each other, and it's just wonderful. So if you would like to enjoy some freedom, this is a place of freedom, and also a great place to get trained on handguns, know how to defend yourself and your family. I do Constitution training in the evenings, and we train on the ranges during the day. And you can find out more about that at our website, patriotacademy.com. Just click on Constitutional Defense, and you can learn more there. So this week has been fantastic. An awful lot of folks joined us, and even some of those that didn't come with us joined us for the Constitution training and the Patriot Academy fundraising dinner, which is another great thing about our trips out here, is that you get a chance to donate to Patriot Academy and have a private, there's usually about 15 or 20 of us, and it's a chance to have a really intimate, entertaining evening, and also support a really, really good cause. And while everybody else was freezing in the ice or snow or whatever else horrible weather across the country, we've enjoyed wonderful 60, 65-degree weather. And I hope my wife's not watching this, because she's freezing right now, and I'm enjoying wonderful weather, and I hate to rub it in.
Did you talk about Biden's call for...
Yes. Remind me to come back to that. Let me say one more thing about being out here. We passed, while we were out here, the 5,000 Constitution coach mark. 5,000 Constitution coaches all over the nation that are now hosting classes in their homes, in their living rooms, at their churches. 5,000, folks. That's a big goal. I mean, I didn't think we would hit that until the end of 2021. It's only February. We've already hit 5,000, so maybe we can hit 10,000 by the end of the year. You need to sign up as a Constitution coach. If you're like a lot of people, even this week in the classroom, people were saying, okay, I get it, Rick. There's problems. Nation's in trouble. Federal government is lost. What can I do? Become a Constitution coach. Become the catalyst in your community. Start a Constitution class this coming week. Takes 5 minutes to sign up at constitutioncoach.com. Gives you access to all of our courses, our Constitution courses. Gives you access to our training. We've got great Constitution coaches that'll step in and help you. Adam Bell and Scarlett and our whole team, they're ready to help you get your class started. So please consider signing up tonight and get started with your Constitution class. 5,000, man. I am so excited about that. You don't understand. When we started this, it was like, maybe we'll get 100. Maybe we'll get 500. Maybe someday we'll get 1,000. 5,000 Constitution coaches. That should give you hope right there. Now, just imagine, we want to put 3 million people through this course before the next presidential election. We need you. You need to be part of it. You can help us double and triple those numbers very quickly. So get signed up and start helping us out. Okay, so let's see, 5,000 mark. Yes, so let's talk about Biden and his gun grab. As usual, this is right out of the, Beto O'Rourke, Robert Francis O'Rourke, hell yes, we're going to take your guns mantra for the last couple of years. And you got to understand, these people, they do not understand the laws of nature. They do not understand the Constitution. All they want is power. This is about controlling your life. And they can't control your life if you are able to defend yourself and fight back against a tyrannical government. That's not some crazy talk. That's the Founding Fathers talk. We just did this last night in the classroom here. I went through Founding Father quote after Founding Father quote about how gun ownership and the ability to defend yourself is a strong, as they put it, quote, strong moral check against the usurpation of government, of usurpation of power, of tyranny. It's a way to keep the government in check. So leftists like Beto O'Rourke and Joe Biden, of course they want to take your guns. So now he's proposing to get rid of high-capacity magazines, which, as we know here at Front Sight, that's just a regular capacity magazine. I mean, who decides how many rounds should be allowed in a magazine? So these idiots that pass laws that prevent you from having what they call a high-capacity magazine, let's say you carry a Glock and you want to have 16 rounds in your magazine in case you end up needing to defend your family. And then the state, the government that's supposed to defend your rights, takes away your right to be able to do that, and now you have to go down to an 8-round or a 9-round magazine. Now, I carry a 1911, so I'm already down to that, but the 1911 makes up for it. But anyway, you had to go down to 8 or 9 rounds. The bad guy shows up, and you end up in a gunfight. He's not going to pay attention to any laws about magazine capacity. He might have one of those long magazines with 40 rounds in it, and well, I think there is a Glock magazine that'll hold about 25 rounds. It sticks way out of your gun. You couldn't carry it concealed, but you could have it in your go bag and be ready. Anyway, some nutcase shows up. You end up in a gunfight. He's not going to pay attention to the gun laws. So now you're the one with a diminished capacity, and you're the one at a disadvantage to defend your family. So the good guys are the ones that get hurt by these stupid gun control laws. But that's Joe Biden for you. What did Joe Biden say after Stephen Williford was the one that saved at least 27 lives at Sutherland Springs? Stephen Williford, with his AR-15, stops the threat, stops this crazy guy who was executing people in that church next door to Stephen's house. After that whole incident, and everybody's hailing Stephen Williford as the hero, Joe Biden's response: Stephen Williford should not have been allowed to have that firearm that he used to stop the bad guy. No problem the bad guy having whatever gun he had. The good guy that was a trained good guy, just in case you're wondering, it's not a good guy with a gun that stops a bad guy with a gun. It's a trained good guy with a gun. So make sure you're not just a guy or a good guy or a good gal with a gun. Make sure you're a trained good guy or good gal. At any rate, here we have a trained good guy with a gun, Stephen Williford. He stops the wolf, stops the threat, saves dozens of lives, and Joe Biden says Stephen Williford should not have been allowed to have the weapon that he used to stop the bad guy. So Joe Biden would have been fine, based on logic at that point, with the bad guy going ahead and executing another 27 people, plus taking his arsenal and going to the next church that he was headed to and killing how many more, we don't know. Folks, that is the left for you. That is how they think. And that's Joe Biden for you. So that's why he's now proposing to Congress that we got to have no, quote, high-capacity magazines, a ban on, quote, assault rifles, which they don't even know what an assault rifle is. They can't even clearly define that without it really infringing upon your Second Amendment rights. It's basically to them, to these fools, it's any gun that's scary looking. I mean, we're led by a bunch of morons, and it's a shame. So that's the Joe Biden thing. Will it get through Congress? Yeah, I mean, it very well may. They've got the majorities, obviously barely, in the House and the Senate, but I do think there are some Democrats in some purple states. They know if they vote for this nonsense, they're dead. That's it. They're never going to win an election again. I can't believe I said they're dead. I don't mean somebody's going to go shoot them. I mean their political career is dead. They're not going to be able to run for office again and win in a place like West Virginia. I think Joe Manchin knows that. So we'll see. Anyway, may or may not happen, but it's definitely something for us to be concerned about and be watching, because there's no question that he would love to take away all of your gun rights, not just those that these common sense. This is Bill Clinton all over again. Common sense gun control measures that they're saying they're going to pass. I want to apologize to anybody that's been trying to friend me on Facebook or trying to follow this page, Patriot Rick Green. Facebook has now put a warning on my pages. So they haven't banned me yet, so I'm still a little self-conscious about my conservative credentials. I may not be as conservative as I thought I was, because at this point they still have not banned me, though they do continue to make it difficult to get on my page. And so you get this big warning. If you try to friend my page or be a part of my page, it comes up and says, "Are you sure? Are you sure you want to be associated with this crazy Rick Green guy?" That's basically what it says. Anyway, so just get past that one and go ahead and still join us. Thank you, Mario. Please also somebody share. So there's your Constitution Coach link. Also share the Constitutional Defense link so that people can join us out here at Frontside. I think we're having a problem with the registration page, so you might have to just email Trey. Hey, Reagan, my battery is going to die, so could you get me a charger for the laptop? Also, make sure that you just email Trey@PatriotAcademy.com. Trey@PatriotAcademy.com. Somebody type that in the chat, and that would help as well. Okay, let's go to your questions. What's on everybody's mind? Let's see. Reagan, you got any picked out for me while I start to scroll through here?
Kind of scrolling through with you. I'll let you know if I catch one of these.
What's going to be really important about this gun control effort by Biden is that we work on our state legislators, okay? So that this is one of those areas where the state can say, no, we will not implement any of these regulations that Biden is trying to pass. You can't use our money. You can't use our law enforcement in our state. And if you have a sheriff that's willing to stand up and say, in our county, you're not coming and taking anybody's gun. You're not gonna take anybody's magazines. You're not gonna force anybody to sell. We're not gonna enforce any of this unconstitutional nonsense that you're doing. And I think Daniel Horowitz has a great idea here for us to not only train like we're training to be able to defend ourselves individually, but also become part of the sheriff's posse, that we would work with our local sheriffs. They're the elected law enforcement official in our county, and we need good partnerships with them. Instead of creating some, militia separate from them, we need to be the founding fathers' view of a militia, which I think would be in conjunction with that local sheriff, to make sure that we can defend against a BLM or Antifa riot, since obviously Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are not going to defend against that. In fact, they're going to go bail them out once they get arrested. And in fact, I think it's kind of nice that Lindsey Graham mentioned today or yesterday that based on Pandora's box that they've opened with the impeachment of Donald Trump after he's out, Kamala Harris may be the next one that gets impeached if the Republicans take over the House and the Senate, because she bailed out rioters. So if that's not supporting insurrection, I don't know what is. I think, Denise, exactly what we're talking about, standing up against the federal overreach, is going to require states to say no, and to thread that needle between what I view as unconstitutional nullification, which is where you just nullify any law that you don't like. That some people try to nullify laws that are passed constitutionally. They're bad laws. They're not laws I would support, but they're actually within the authority of the federal government. That versus actually saying that's an unconstitutional law that you've passed. It is not at all pursuant to the Constitution, which is what the Supremacy Clause says in Article 6 of the Constitution, and states having the wherewithal and the discernment to know when to take a stand and when not to take a stand. It's that old having the serenity to know the things that you can make a difference with and the things that you can't. So you really got to pick your battles here. I personally think the two areas that are worth picking a fight with the federal government over right now are going to be the gun control measures, if they pass them, and refusing to enforce them, and potentially even being willing to say you will not send a federal officer into our state to enforce that unconstitutional order. And then the COVID fascism, being willing to say we will not enforce a CDC guideline. Are you kidding me? CDC guidelines are now law. There are people right now actually trying to enforce, and I haven't flown in a while because I refuse to be with these mask cult Nazis any more than I have to. But I've heard that now they say in their announcements, this is federal law that you have to wear this mask while you're on the airplane because the CDC says so. Since when does the CDC have constitutional authority to make law for what you have to wear when you travel on an airplane? This is bogus, absolutely baloney. But the airlines are being suckers, and they're some of these stewardesses and most of the stewards, they are loving this power trip. Oh, the ones I've had to deal with, they are loving the ability to make you put a Chinese face diaper over your mouth and nose and make you try to breathe out of that thing. It's just ridiculous. Live Not by Lies, my friends. Great book, by the way. My wife convinced me to read it, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. I highly recommend it. Live Not by Lies. In my opinion, when you put that mask on, you are living by a lie. Sorry, that's just my opinion. I realize 99% of people are doing it. They're living a lie. None of the science backs up the fact that mask is going to help anybody. In fact, if you look at the data from the counties in Oklahoma that required a mask, they're doing worse than the counties that didn't require a mask. You look at the states that have mask mandates, doing worse than anybody that didn't have a mask mandate. Doesn't work. Look all over the world, internationally. No science to back up the mask. Doesn't work, doesn't help, doesn't do anything but reduce your oxygen, cause you to breathe in the bacteria from the pocket you grabbed it out of for 3 weeks that it was sitting in, or the briefcase or whatever. It's idiocy. We are living a lie, and we just continue to do it. And too many people are willing to not only be part of the lie, but actually force the lie on other people. And I won't do it. I won't participate in it. Yeah, I want Trump back too, Kathy. I'm with you. I miss him already. Let's see. What's a badge of honor? I missed that, Joel.
Kimberly had asked a while ago what the constitutional process of states refusing to follow executive orders is.
Yeah, okay, I'll talk about that. Somebody asked how to find me on Rumble. It's Patriot Rick Green on Rumble. So if you go to, let's see if I can find that link. Yeah, if you could find that Rumble link and share it. A couple people are asking about how to find us on Rumble, and we will post these videos after they're finished. We download them and then upload them to Rumble. So the question was, I'm sorry, Reagan. The question was how to constitutionally do what? States not following executive orders. Yeah. So it's back to that debate over when the doctrine of the lesser magistrates, is actually constitutional. When can a state or a county or a city say no to a higher level government that what you're doing is unconstitutional and we're going to stand in between the citizen and you? A lot of people for a long time have thought that, nullification of anything that you didn't like was okay. I've never been for that. I think it has to be a very clear constitutional violation, and you have to have exhausted your effort to get it ruled unconstitutional at the higher level. We're at that point right now where the federal government is completely off the rails. The courts have failed us completely. The Congress is controlled by leftists. The presidency is now controlled by leftists. And so when they pass all these unconstitutional orders, that once they're implemented, there's no turning back. And there's not many battles that I think fit that description, but guns, that's one of them. If they take your guns, you can no longer fight back after that. If they take your children, that's one that I would never allow. If they want to force you to be vaccinated and inject something in your children or you that you do not approve of, those are things that I think are absolutely a state has the authority and responsibility to stand up to those things and say, nope, not going to do it, unconstitutional, and you will not do it in our state. And so there's really this push-pull. There's this tug of war between local, state, and federal government that is a separation of powers that the founders thought was a good, healthy thing. It creates a healthier environment when you have that. You don't want any one level of government to have all the power and all the say. And so not only do we have a separation of powers between legislative, judicial, and executive, we have a separation of powers between federal, state, and local. And it's rare, but there are times when the lower level government has to say no to that higher level government. And you see that happening even in some states with regard to not being willing to implement bans on marijuana. We've seen that in multiple states at this point. We've seen it with immigration. And, I think we're at a point where you have to fight fire with fire, and you've got to use those same tools to say no to things like taking away our guns or taking away our kids or taking away our freedom to breathe or taking away our freedom to say no to a medical process that invades your body. I mean, those are areas where I think it is worth drawing a line. Eric Hoaghaug, I see you on there. Yeah, man, you're right. You got to come. And by the way, I did see your text, Eric, and I'll call you when this is over. I saw your text to give you a shout. I just hadn't had a chance to get to a phone or take time to make a phone call yet. Okay, what else, Reagan?
Ways to fight back against tech censorship.
Ways to fight back against tech censorship. Okay, I think we have to fight this one on all levels. So that means I think we have to fight it with our dollars, with our own marketplace vote, and by voting with our feet, which means we leave these outlets like we're on right now, Facebook, which we will be leaving at some point. Right now, as I've said several times, we're slowly transferring over to MeWe and Parler and Gab, but I don't want to bail immediately unless they ban me, so which they're close to banning me. They've got me in jail. I can't really reach that many people. Y'all are here because you get the email and you're able to jump on, but I do think we have to start hurting them where it hurts, in their pocketbook, and look at the market value that Twitter and Facebook have lost in the last 2 months. It's billions and billions of dollars. So that's a good sign. That's the type of thing we want to see. But now we got to vote with our dollars and help these other outlets grow. So that's non-governmental. That's just marketplace, right? That's one place to fight. And then also fight at the government level. These entities have gotten government protections. Absolutely, Section 230 should be removed. Blame the Republicans. They had the opportunity to do that while Donald Trump was president, and they wimped out. So it's entirely their fault. That's why we need a whole new crop of congressmen and senators in Washington, D.C., if we actually want to move the nation back to the right place. I think that's a long shot. I don't think that's where the fight is going to be worth. It's not where I'm going to put my effort. Though obviously I care about who gets elected senator and congressman, and we'll vote there, and we'll donate there, and we'll be involved in those races. But most of my effort is going to be on stripping power from those congressmen and senators, taking power from the federal government, giving it back to the states and the local government. That is only done one way, through constitutional amendments that have to be done. Look, we will not save the republic without it. We have to have a convention of states. We must use Article 5 just as George Mason designed it, just as the founding fathers designed it, just as they gave us in the Constitution. It is time. This is the moment they were looking towards, knowing that we would have a federal government outside of the box, and we have to put them back in the box, and the only way to do it is through a convention of states. So that's the most important way to rein in the federal government, and then we would have the opportunity to rein in big tech at more of a state level. Now, the state fights, I think, can win. I think what Ron DeSantis is doing in Florida can work. Look, we've seen other countries, Poland and other countries, that have said, if you limit freedom of speech on social media like they're doing, like what Facebook has done and Twitter has done, you get fined millions of dollars. So, look, go Ron DeSantis, go Florida. Maybe they can rein them in, just through their efforts, but then hopefully other states will have the guts to do it as well. I think Matt Krause is proposing it in Texas. Of course, Greg Abbott's like, me too, because Ron DeSantis did it. So now he's got to act like he's for freedom of speech, even though he's, sat on the sidelines and did nothing while most of this stuff has happened. In fact, he's been part of the problem on many of these issues. Janet, it's a good question. I understand that masks are a hoax. Is the COVID pandemic itself a hoax? No, I mean, well, let me say COVID is not a hoax. I don't think. I know COVID's real because my dad nearly died from it. So I absolutely know that it's a real virus. It does kill people, just like the flu kills people. It's part of what we don't have perspective right now, right? So, I mean, the flu, influenza, the flu kills anywhere from 20,000 to 80,000, depending on the year, every year. So tens of thousands of Americans die every year from influenza, from the flu. So it is absolutely normal, if you will, that a virus like coronavirus, and this is not the first coronavirus, but COVID-19 would kill tens of thousands of people. That happens every few years. We have things like that happen. And so the problem is we've just overreacted to it, and we faked the numbers. I mean, the actual number of people that have died from COVID, not with COVID, but from COVID, is less than what normally die from the flu. So that part has been a hoax. That part has been an absolute scam by the experts, by government, by, these people that want power. They want to control you. This has given them the chance to dictate every part of your life. Think about what they've done. They have taken a virus that is no worse than some of the viruses we've seen in the last 50 years, and certainly not anywhere near as bad as viruses we've seen 100 years ago. Spanish flu was 25 times. I know y'all have heard me say it many, many times. I'm going to say it again. Spanish flu was 25 times more deadly than coronavirus. So for every person that's died from coronavirus, we would have had 25 more deaths if it was Spanish flu. And that includes the kids would have been dying, right? Right now, this virus is mostly, and I say mostly meaning like 95% of the people that it's killing are people that are obese, that have blood sugar problems, that have very specific underlying conditions that this thing attacks. And that's why those people are dying, and you haven't, and I haven't. And the millions, please let this sink in, millions of people that have had coronavirus in America, and hundreds of millions of people around the world that have had coronavirus that have not died, that have not even gotten really sick. Now, some of you have gotten it and gotten really sick. I've had really bad viruses before. You've had really bad viruses before. For some people, this one really got them. And it was a week or two even of being very, very sick. So that part is real. That is not a hoax, but it's not unusual. It's certainly not unusual enough to kill an economy and shut down the world and now have children committing suicide. Think about what we've done. Think about what we've allowed Fauci and these selfish, self-righteous, power-hungry, insane people. Think about what we've let them do to the children of our nation. Do you realize that you have 10-month-old babies right now that have seen virtually no faces for their entire 10-month existence? They've seen their parents' faces and maybe no others. let that sink in and think about what that does psychologically to a baby. Think about what it does to these toddlers. Think about what it does to us. We are not enjoying the countenance of each other, as my friend John Graves said the other day on one of the shows we were on. I mean, we need each other's countenance. We need the joy of each other's smile. We need the fellowship, and when it's been robbed, it's been taken from us because of this hoax in terms of the pandemic itself. The virus is real. The government response has been the worst, the most costly, the worst public policy decision in the history of mankind. It will go down in history as that. Now, it may be another 20 years before the experts are willing to admit that they got it wrong. It didn't take long in Spanish flu. With Spanish flu, it was just a few years. Like within 5 years, the scientific community said masks don't work. Everything we did was stupid. So maybe this time it'll happen in 20 years because truth is not alive and well like it was back then. All right.
You want to give an update on the sanctuary county movement, or did you talk about that already?
I talked a little bit about it, and look, Sharon, I appreciate your comment, but Convention of States is not dangerous. Convention of States has safety valves that prevent it from being dangerous. The founders were wise in how they designed this thing. So any amendment that is even proposed at a Convention of States has to be passed by 38 states. We only need 13 chambers. One chamber in 13 states is enough to kill a bad amendment. So, I mean, you talk about dangerous. I'll tell you what's dangerous. Dangerous is doing nothing. Dangerous is letting the Supreme Court continue to be its own constitutional convention day in and day out, modifying our Constitution. Dangerous is letting Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi remake America into their socialist Marxist vision. And if we don't do a Convention of States, that's what we're going to let them do, because we're going to let the federal government continue to control the world and continue to micromanage your life and continue to ignore the Constitution. It is only through a Convention of States that we are going to bring the Constitution back, shut down the Courtstitution, and pull the power back from the federal government and give it to the states. So everything's got risks, just like coronavirus has, risks. And walking out this door when I leave after this Facebook Live is going to have risks, and getting in my car is going to have risks. But the risks of a Convention of States is about that big compared to the risks of doing nothing and continuing to let the federal government do what it's doing. So it's got to be done. Stephanie, I'm glad you asked that, because everybody's asking this. No, there is no truth to this idea that somehow the Constitution is gone and America's a corporation. In 1871, it all changed, and we created a corporation, and now there's some smoke-filled room somewhere that some bankers are controlling everything. And folks, not true. 1871 organic laws was nothing more than incorporating D.C., trying to make it a city. It lasted 3 or 4 years. Congress said that's not working. It has nothing to do with America becoming a corporation. The Constitution has only been set aside by the Supreme Court changing the language of the Constitution. It doesn't have anything to do with what happened in 1871. What happened in 1871 is not a big deal, and not what everybody has made it to be. So it's one of those things where it sounds like a good conspiracy until you hear the other side and you start actually reading what happened then. So I don't blame you for asking the question. I appreciate the fact that you did ask the question, and a lot of people are asking that question because there's a bunch of conspiracy theorists that have been throwing that out there. And I'll tell you what happens when those theories get thrown out. People are able to say, see, it's too hard. The system's controlled by somebody else. There's nothing I can do. And it allows them to not be active and not take responsibility and say, it's up to me to change this thing. So that's why we're desperate. I mean, people are desperate right now. They want some reason why we've lost the country. They want some big conspiracy moment that caused the whole thing to change. They want to believe there's a pedophile ring in Washington, D.C. at a pizza parlor, and that pedophile ring has caused the corruption that is causing all the problems in our country. It is not that salacious, folks. Let me tell you, it is simply the fact that the other side outworked us. They have kicked our butts all over the place because they have been willing day in and day out to put in the work, to win the local elections, put in the work, to convince the corporations, to give the money to their causes, put in the work, to learn how to articulate things in a way to persuade, put in the work to go into the professions like professors at universities, and We haven't. I mean, that's the bottom line. We haven't. Conservatives, constitutionalists, Christians, people that love freedom have enjoyed freedom for too long and not had to work for it. We don't even want to do the hard work to make sure that the university that we're sending our kid to is not going to inculcate them with left-wing philosophy. We want so bad for them to go to a university that has a good name in the marketplace and has a football team that we can be proud of. And we don't realize that while they go there and they get to attend, 10, whatever it is, to 12 football games a year and have a great time cheering for the football team, that the other than those 2 hours at the football game 12 times, that's 24 hours total. They're also going to be spending 25, 30 hours in the classroom being taught left-wing philosophy and poisoning their minds against everything that you tried to teach them at home and that your pastor was teaching them at home. And I know I've got family and friends that are going to say, well, my kid or my grandkid went off to that school and didn't get indoctrinated, and so it must be okay. No, look, I mean, frankly, my kid did too. My kid went to A&M and got a master's, but didn't go to class much because of the left-wing indoctrination, and he said, this is a waste of my time, but he went ahead and got the degree. I went to UT Law School, so I went to one of the best law schools in the country that is a left-wing indoctrination camp. Somehow, some way I survived. Do you really want to play those odds? Do you really want to roll the dice with your kid's brain and heart? You know how many families I've talked to that are now at odds, not even talking to their children because their children got completely changed at the university level and came home a white privilege, black power, all this baloney and Marxism that they bought into, and now the family is just like this. So anyway, all of that to say, we're not even willing to do that kind of homework. The other side is scratching and clawing to control our country and to control our children and control this entire society. And we're too busy to do a 2-hour Constitution class. Come on. We gotta stop blaming 1871 and blaming a fake pedophile ring at a pizza parlor in Washington, D.C., and start doing the blocking and tackling, the real work, the hard work that it takes to win a culture. And that means we've got to invest the time, the money, the energy. We got to sacrifice. We got to give up some things that we maybe don't want to give up. It's going to be hard, man. I'm just telling you, this is not going to be an easy fight. It's going to take decades to turn this thing around. If we can turn it around, we may not. I believe we can. If you get involved and I get involved, we can, but it may or may not happen. But that doesn't mean we don't try. It doesn't mean we don't get up and fight. I mean, are we going to be one of those people that just rolls over and gives up? Are we really going to just say, you can have it, America's yours? After all that our nation's been through, after all that our nation has done? Not me, man. I'm going to fight to my dying breath. And I hope you're willing to do the same thing. And the good news is it's not complicated. The things we need to do are not complicated. I'm telling you, you may think we don't know what to do. I'm telling you, we know what to do. We know we're students of history. We know how to turn this thing around. We know how to restore the Constitution. It begins in your home, teaching other people. It begins with paying attention to those city council races and school board races, running good candidates, taking it over at the local level, then taking over the state legislature, having a convention of states and telling the federal government to get out of our lives on all of these different things and only do what the Constitution says they can do. Those things can be done. But it's going to take millions of people getting on board. And that's only going to happen if you and I are willing to work tirelessly, if we're willing to sacrifice our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. And that means day in and day out, week in and week out, month in and month out, year in and year out, focusing on our kids, really paying attention to who's sowing into their lives and who's teaching them, challenging them to read and to study, not just the Constitution, but economic philosophy and political philosophy. Read and study the Bible every day and get the good principles. Sending them to Patriot Academy so they get around other young people and have that iron sharpening iron. Those are the solutions, man. They work. They work every time they're tried, but they got to be tried. They got to be done. All right. I'm sorry. I kind of got preachy there for a little bit.
We're going to go have to get Trey in a minute.
Why is that?
They're going to break here.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Sorry for getting so preachy on everybody. Let's see. Yeah, in fact, I probably will sign off because I know Mark Meckler usually goes live at 7 o'clock Texas time. And I want everybody to be able to go over and see what Mark has to say tonight as well. Yeah, the ammo shortage is a big deal. It is so hard to find ammo. I do think that's going to let up in about 3 months based on what I'm hearing. But you know what? I thought it would be over by now. Yeah, and I agree with Britt. Why take the vaccine if you don't have the underlying conditions? I mean, look, I'll get better immunity, and they're already saying that you get better immunity from actually having the virus than you'll get from the vaccine anyway. The problem is going to be travel. They're already floating the idea of having to have a travel passport. I told you, 3 months ago that was coming, and that I'd already resolved that I'm not going to be able to fly anywhere because unless somebody out there has a black market, travel pass that I can get, at some point it's going to be like smuggling Bibles in the Soviet Union. We're going to be smuggling, travel passports. It's that bad. No, I think the vaccine is going to be the next big fight as to whether or not you have to take it, and I don't think you should have to take it. I think you should, if you think you're vulnerable enough to the virus and you think the virus is, that the vaccine is safe enough for you, then go for it. Me personally, I don't think that, and so nobody in my family is going to get it, and I'm not going to get it. So that's just us. Reagan, anything else I definitely need to hit?
Somebody asked where to find Mark Meckler. Is he on Facebook or online?
He is on Facebook. If you search for Mark Meckler on Facebook, you'll be able to find his Facebook Live. Also, just search for what's it called? Battle Cry? He calls his Battle Cry, right? Yeah, I think that's the name of his weekly Facebook Live. So y'all jump over to Mark Meckler. He's live in 1 minute. In fact, let me just see if I can find his link real quick. And that way I make sure I'm sending y'all to the right place. I appreciate y'all joining me tonight, by the way, and I do want you to consider coming out here with us. We have 2 trips in March. I mentioned March 21st. We also have that same week we'll start a second class. Oh, he's live. So let's see if I can find the link and send it to you. Battle Cry. Oh no, he's live in 50 seconds. So we're going to time this just right. Handing you off to Mark. There's the link. Let me post it here, and then you guys please go join Mark. Nope, that's the wrong. Okay. All right, guys, see if that link will get you there. Somebody let me know if that worked. Otherwise, just search for Mark Meckler on Facebook. Mark Meckler Official is actually his. It's facebook.com. Well, you know what? Let me just share that link.
He's just going to get a dump of 400 people all at once.
There's a link to his actual page. Yeah, Vicky, thank you for sharing Frontline Doctors. Those guys are fantastic, man. Simone Gold, they're all just fantastic. So, yeah, please share that. I encourage everybody to watch their releases as well and sign the Barrington Declaration. That's a big part of fighting this stuff. Okay, signing off. God bless everybody. Have a great week, and hopefully next Sunday I'll be back on the front porch. I'm missing the fire, and hope that you've still got a fire of liberty in your heart. Let's go fight for this thing. I'm sorry for getting a little preachy tonight, and I'm just telling you, we can save the country, okay? But it's going to take a lot of hard work. So if freedom's worth it to you, then we've got a chance, all right? We used to do a talk called Freedom is Worth the Fight. And we've got a DVD of it, actually, if you go to patriotacademy.com. But freedom is worth the fight. So we're going to keep fighting. I hope you will as well. And some good signs this week. Look, again, Trump is the undisputed impeachment champion of the world. Back-to-back champ. And that's a good sign. So let's build on that. God bless you. We'll see you later.